Well, I'd like to welcome you to this gathering. For a few of us present, you saw some version of my presentation as recently as yesterday, and you loved it so much that you can come back for a rerun. And for
no, first run.
First run. We did not have a nice projector at Redwood Glen at the men's retreat. And so for those of you, I'm glad that we finally do have a good projector. So I also know that a few of you need to leave for choir. I try to run through these slides. Now, I actually have two PowerPoints. And I tried to entice the men to come back this Sunday because I didn't have time to share Camino Plus. You know how when you buy Disney Channel, it's Disney Plus, you have to subscribe to that? Well, there is a Camino Plus. So if you want to stay long enough, you'll be able to see a footage that no one else has seen except Jordan. Okay, so this is really special. It's like watching Shang-Chi, right? After the movie is over, everyone stays and watch the credits because there are two more endings if you go watch Shang-Chi. And if you don't stay to the very end, you'll never know what the next Marvel comic might be, movie might be. And so this is it. There's a Camino Plus, so if you stay long enough, you'll see that. So anyway, what'd you say?
I said, let's go.
This is a repeat for her.
With that kind of audience, it's hard to. All right, so anyway, in August 1st to the 8th, our daughter Lauren and I went to Spain, and we walked a leg or a segment of what is called the Camino de Santiago, but only the one that is called Camino Portuguese. So this particular Camino originates from Lisbon, Portugal. So this writer says this is what a pilgrimage means. It's a journey with a holy purpose toward a place of spiritual significance. So when people say, I'm going to go on a pilgrimage, it needs to kind of qualifies with these features. So it's a holy purpose, and you're going to a place where other people before you have said this is very special because it has some spirituality to it. Secondly, 3 steps to guide us on a pilgrimage. One is that all pilgrimages begin by walking away from what you are comfortable in, your home place, your personal surroundings, so that you are in an unfamiliar place. And then secondly, we surrender our need to control. Because you see, if you're home, you know where everything is, right? You know where the minibus is or the BART station is. But when you go away, you give up that control. And then thirdly, a pilgrimage slows you down. It's not something that you race to the finish line, but rather you take your time and you open up space where more profound questions can emerge in your life. Okay? So the Camino officially has some Christian origin to it about 1,200 years ago. But the Camino, like every place around the world, especially in Europe, there were people who preceded Christians. And they walked these same trails hundreds, thousands of years before Christians walked these trails. St. James the Greater, Santiago is the name for St. James. Now, at the men's retreat, I asked, how many James are there in the New Testament? There are 3. James the Greater, which is the first apostle, James the Lesser, who is the son of Alphaeus, and then James the Just, who is, according to tradition, is the brother of Jesus. So this is James the Greater. He was beheaded in the Holy Land in 4040 AD. Now, can't find it in the Bible, but according to legend, St. James spent several years in Iberia. So Portugal, Spain, and France is considered the Iberian Peninsula. Legend says he went and spread the gospel, but then when he returned to Jerusalem is when he was beheaded. And the legend says that two of St. James's disciples brought his body back on a stone boat guided by an angel. So here is a picture of St. James, two apostles, and the angel. And this is supposed to be a stone boat. This you can see is a kind of just a poster outside a big plaza. And so I was happy that I took a picture of this because this explains it. So more legend. Oh, and then eventually his disciples brought his body back and buried it at the Santiago de Compostela, which is where the cathedral is, and I'll show you pictures of that. But an additional legend is that 814, there's this hermit named Pelejo who saw the Milky Way, a trail of stars, and it led him to rediscover St. James's body. And then a chapel, eventually the cathedral was built over it. And then it is Pelejo's journey that we now know the Camino. Okay, so why the Camino? You can see that in 2019, our son Greg and I did the Kumano Goto, the Kohechi and the Nagahechi trails. And so when I came home, even though our children are in their 40s, they still have sibling rivalry. Lauren says, well, Dad, when are we gonna go on a hike? And so I said, okay, you wanna go on the Camino? And so in August, we went on the Camino. And just for historical significance, UNESCO declared the Camino a universal patrimony of humanity. And then in 2004, UNESCO declared that the Kumano Goto is also a pilgrimage route. And so I wanted to become a dual pilgrim, which means that I would have walked both of these. These are the only two UNESCO-approved trails in the whole earth. Even though there are a lot like the Appalachian Trail and the Sierra Trail, all of these trails are all over the world, including the United States. But the United Nations said these are the two trails that have historical significance and they need to be protected. So we did a Camino that was 68 miles. But by the time you finish the Camino, the piece that we did from Tui to Santiago, it was a lot more than 68 miles, like over 100 miles, because you have to get from one place to the next. This is only from the beginning of the trail to the end of your destination for that day. So this is a graph that shows the cities, the towns that we walk, and the elevation. And you can see the last day is the highest elevation before we get to Santiago. Okay? And here is a map, and here's right here is Tui. And you can see it's the border of Portugal and Spain, and we walk here to Santiago. Everyone takes this picture. This is in the cathedral in Tui, and so this is our picture. And there's a bridge, a famous bridge that bridges Portugal and Spain, España in Spain. And so Lauren's feet, my feet, and this scallop shell is a symbol of the Camino. And you can barely see, but this also designates the fact that this is an old Roman road. So these slides will go a little bit faster. We walk in towns, and here, I gotta do this one. And here's Lauren walking. So this is Mos, this old Perino, and this is Arcadi. 3 of the towns that we walk through. And here is Ponte Vedra, big letters here. And everywhere we go, there are these monuments that has crosses on top sometimes. But this one has an old pilgrim walking, and so that's who we are. We're old pilgrims. And so we walk past these old cross shrines. We think that before the modern markers were installed, these were markers for the ancient pilgrims who walked the Camino. And when they see this, they know that this is where they need to walk. And so my whole point here is that we follow the way, and you can see that this is a much older marker, but these are the new markers that we follow. We went and visit chapels. Here's Lauren here, and here is a sanctuary where there is I guess that's supposed to be Jesus, but we didn't really take the time to find out. That's okay. And part of the Camino is that you have to collect stamps. So when we got to Spain, they gave us this Credencia del Peregrino. That means the pilgrim's credential. And we are expected to get 2 stamps per day. And places where it's a chapel, a restaurant, a museum, any place would give you a stamp. Even grocery stores did that, but some places wouldn't give you a stamp unless you bought something. It's called capitalism. But you can see that picture is the beginning, and then at the end, you got to present this in order to prove that you have finished the Camino. So this is the one that they gave us, and you can see on the back, there are all kinds of additional maps that point out where all the other trails are. And some of them go all the way back to Germany and Italy, so it goes way back to Europe, besides just Spain. So wherever we went, we prayed for people. This is a metal link chain, and people fashion crosses with twigs, and we put crosses on this. And then these are the markers, and wherever we went, we put a rock here. And I told at the men's fellowship that, and I'll tell this story very quickly. So on Monday mornings, Victor Lowe and I play tennis in Cueva Madera. And there's always 4 senior women who play in the other court. The last day that we played, and I still haven't played tennis, no, I have played tennis with Victor since then, but the last day before I went on the Camino, Victor says to these women, we don't have to fight for courts for the next 2 weeks because my partner is going away. And then one of the women said, where are you going? And I said, I'm going to walk the Camino. And this woman named Shirley came up to me and said, can I touch you? And she reached out and touched my forearms. And all she said was, can you pray for my daughter, Chris? And then I said, yes, I will. So on this Camino, I place a rock every day in one of these markers, and I said a little prayer for Chris. And when I came back and saw them again, I gave them a prayer card, each of them a prayer card, and I say, I pray for you, not just for Shirley and Chris, but I pray for the other 3 tennis partners too. So it was very special in that way. And that Chris was just one of the persons I pray. I have actually a whole list of people who have asked me to pray for them. So we continue to follow the way. So here are the markers that you can now see. And we walked on streets. So every time we walked into a town, we had to walk into town in order to then find our hotel for that night. We walk on trails. We walked, there's Lauren. And then there's I was telling the guys on Saturday that I just put these videos in just to prove that we actually did walk. This is not fake news, that we got all this from Google, internet, okay? Did I miss one? No, I did not miss one. Okay, then again, we follow the way. And we walk by water, there's waterfalls, and then these are places where pilgrims would stop and soak their feet. But the water was always dirty looking. We never did soak our feet. Yeah. And here's another, just to show the water. We walk by vineyards and see, you can see the grapes. They were not ripe. We walk by farms. There were a lot of corn fields that we walked by. We continue to follow the way. We walk on our feet. We said Ben Camino. If you look at it, you're supposed to say Buen Camino, but people shorten it. They just say Ben Camino, Ben Camino. It's almost like, Buenos Dias. But if you are on a pilgrimage, you just say Ben Camino, and you continue to walk. And so we follow the way. So my point here is, we can take this road or we can take this road. It's up to you. What is your Camino? Where do you want to see your life go? Okay. You have that opportunity to make a decision. We don't all have to follow the same road, the same path. We walk as old pilgrims. You can see there's a sculpture here. And then this guy, his portrait was around, you see him, and we say, who is he? And people say, he's the old pilgrim. And so I became the old pilgrim because when Lauren introduced me to people we see on the trail, she'll say, this is me, Padre, my father. But he's old. And so I became the old pilgrim along the way.
It's kind of obvious, huh?
So along the trails, people leave their hiking boots, and then some people take it and make it into a planter. And you'll see here, it is Galicia, and this is the region of Spain where we walked. And so here is a more completed passport of all the stamps. And so we get to the cathedral, Cathedral de Santiago. And here is a video that just kind of gives you a sense of the plaza. Now everybody converges to Santiago, and that's why there are so many people. Every trail ends here. Okay. Now, inside is supposed to be the burial of St. James. We did not go in. There was just too many people. You have to line up for hours. So we just said, we know we made it. We don't need to go in. Maybe the next time I do a Camino, I will have more time. Okay, that's. Okay, so here, Lauren had a lot of feet problems.